Good morning and welcome to our Pie Chat Live with Bruce Davis, CEO of Hudson Global Scholars. Welcome everyone from all across the world. I see that folks are tuned in and saying their greetings. We've got Austin, Texas in the house. Berlin is here, UK, Maryland. Please introduce yourself in the chat. We're so thrilled that you're here, and we're excited for a really interesting conversation this morning about revolutionizing the tool of online education to promote equity and excellence in education. So I want to go over a few housekeeping items before I introduce our special guest today. And that is, if you have questions for Bruce, please use the Ask a Question tab that you see on your screen and go ahead and ask Bruce a question, because we will have plenty of time for Q&A at the end of our discussion. With the caveat that Bruce and I have already been having a discussion this morning. We've got into all sorts of interesting conversations. So I will make sure that we set aside time so that we can address audience questions at the end. Also, there's a call to action button. So if you want to learn more about Hudson Global Scholars, you have questions for the folks at Hudson Global Scholars, please click on that. It will bring you to the website and it will bring you to the right people to get in touch with. So all that being said, good morning, Bruce.
Hello. Thank you, Maureen. Nice to be with you.
Thanks
Greetings,
so
everyone.
much. Thanks. I want to tell you a little bit about Bruce's background, because I know he's very humble, so he may not do so. So I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Bruce and where he came from. And then we'll get into the journey of Hudson Global Scholars and how you came from your rich background in the sector to this idea, to this innovative concept that you had to form Hudson Global Scholars. So Bruce is an innovative leader in educational technology, and he currently is the CEO of Hudson Global Scholars. It's a company dedicated to advancement of students through high quality online education. Bruce has worked and traveled extensively throughout the world and has led many innovative efforts. He was the chief operating officer of Prometric and managed company rollout in more than 100 companies, bringing access to standardization, examinations, and higher educations to students everywhere. He created and developed Discovery Education streaming video service, now the largest video education provider, reaching millions of students, and built and operated numerous private schools, ranging from Kasubi School in Uganda to the International School in Bern, Switzerland. Many other accomplishments. I'm going to just stop there, Bruce, because I want to spend the rest of our time talking about what you're currently doing as the CEO at Hudson Global Scholars. So if I can start by asking you about the founding story of HGS and how you were inspired to use this tool of K-12 online education to really revolutionize delivery across the world, and specifically to U.S. education and pathways to international university.
Great. Sure. I'm happy to do that. The inspiration often comes from a base of experience, and you see circumstances where something is missing from the world. And so I had the good fortune to do three things. One, run physical schools outside of the United States, actually build them and see what it's like for students in a country like Uganda to be educated, and also understand the limitations of physical schooling in a developing country, and other countries like Egypt and other places where I've been and worked and built schools. I also ran a major online school system in the United States through K-12 Stride, and have worked extensively with U.S. higher education. And while running the online school in the United States, we noticed that kids from abroad would try to register into the online school in the United States, even though the school was not really set up to take them. It didn't teach at the right times of day, didn't have the right curriculum, it was not equipped to deal with bilingual learners, yet still they would attempt to register into the school. So I developed this vision wherein, through online learning, we could make an international school that could reach students anywhere in the world, that would do so with high quality, that would do so with relatively low cost, and would allow them to prepare themselves for education, higher education in the US or in other English-speaking countries. And that would break down a lot of barriers and provide access to a big population of students who can't afford to go to the expensive embassy or IB schools. And that was the founding vision.
So, Bruce, could you elaborate a bit on the role of digital learning in fostering equity in education and how that connects?
Sure. Sure. Well, equity in its ultimate form through online learning would allow any student anywhere in the world to be educated at a high international level, befitting only the finest physical schools now. And the electronic learning can break down that time and distance and permit someone, no matter where they live or whatever circumstances they may be, whether they're in a city or out in the countryside, whether they're in a developing or developed country, none of that matters, because they could then log on and attend the Sorbonne or any institution they want. So the nature of electronic learning permits that. But it's not that easy. You have to create an education institution on the back end that actually is appropriate for the student population that you're trying to reach. And that, in essence, is what Hudson Global Scholars is.
So let's dig into that piece a little bit. And I want to learn more about how specifically Hudson Global Scholars prepares students for that future success. What does it look like? Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So, students around the world these days aspire to similar things, which is they want to join the global economy. They want to be able to participate in higher education wherever they choose to go. They want a better life. And the capacity for that may not be available in their village. And so Hudson fundamentally teaches in English. We run courses all the way from K through 12 that are both English, meant to teach English, but also teach in English. So all the subject matter is like that. And it's been tuned for bilingual non-native speakers to be accessible and to be progressive. So like a good English-speaking private school, which is what it is, it marches these kids up the spectrum. It also gives them exposure to U.S. culture through its curriculum, its community, its interactivity, the classes that the kids attend with other students from anywhere in the world who are also aspiring to learn in English, and the teachers who are typically American teachers, often teaching at night, who give those students the experience. The kids also learn in a modern technology-based system, very similar to what they will see when they enroll in a university in the United States. Universities now use electronic learning as the backbone of their institutions and teach classes as supplement to a fundamentally learning management system driven style of education. And that's not widely known throughout the world, but that is what US education at the higher ed level has become. Our students are well prepared for that. And then lastly, we offer enormous subject matter. So students who want to take Python coding or cryptocurrency or study Chinese history or what have you, have those subjects available to them in variety and quantity that no physical school could match. So by the end of it, they're well prepared to go to university and are well prepared to work in the international job market, and that's our goal.
Thanks so much for adding that piece at the end as well, because that was my next question for you. So I'll ask you to elaborate maybe a bit more on that, about that career readiness piece as well. So it sounds like they are extremely well prepared for uni life. Could you talk about that career development piece as well?
Sure. Well, so if they may or may not pull themselves together or have the economics to go study abroad in an American or a British university, and that's fine, by getting a high school diploma from this kind of international English-based system, they know how to interact with Western people. And they're certainly well qualified to take jobs working in a supply chain operation for a manufacturer shipping company, or behind the desk at a major hotel, and have got a very important skill. One could argue that international cultural skill and English skill at a high proficiency level are perhaps the most valuable job skills anyone can have in the world at this moment in human history.
Thanks so much. Couldn't agree with you more. And our audience agrees with you as well, Bruce. Elizabeth saying, great point. The ability to become confident in handling technology while learning English is such a win-win. Also, Ed, I see your comment, and thanks for joining us, even though it's just for a little bit of time. And yes, we will be sending out a recording to everyone who's in the chat, as well as those who have registered, who aren't able to join us live this morning. And if you are just logging on, and I see some others have joined our chat since we began our introduction, if you are just joining on, please let us know where you're coming from. And also, don't forget to use that Ask a Question feature so that you can ask questions to Bruce for our Q&A section. But don't wait. If you've got a burning question, go ahead and pop that in the chat. And lastly, if you want to learn more about how Hudson Global Scholars partners with schools and organizations, please click on that green call to action button. But after I'm done chatting with Bruce, because we have many more questions. And one of the biggest things for me that interests me, and I know our audience alike, as I talk to different stakeholders across the globe at different conferences, they want to hear about student stories. So I'm going to be asking you about some specific student stories shortly. But can you provide some examples of how programs have positively impacted the lives of students from diverse geographic backgrounds? And perhaps this is where the student stories comes into play right now, but any student testimonials or stories that really have sat with you over the years that you've heard from students?
Yeah, fortunately, we are replete with stories of students who have finished our program and graduated and gone on to a variety of universities and or vocations. I'll just share a few with you. So for example, we have quite a few students in the Ukraine right now. We have a young lady, Maria, who studies with us and is just doing great. But she's been evacuated to Romania and does not have access to a school of any kind because she's not a Romanian citizen and because her hometown is, in a war zone now. So we're very proud that we're able to give her, a significant international quality education, and that we have approximately 200 more students that are Ukrainians who may or may not be in the Ukraine. We don't really know. So, in terms of providing access to people, that's a very important thing that we're very proud of. And there are other examples around the world, of course. And then, if for example, in a country like Vietnam, where there's a really big population of young people and an increasing middle class, we notice a large student population forming. And so for example, Kyun is a student who successfully completed our program and then took advantage of our counseling and is now enrolled at the University of Illinois in Chicago and is studying biochemistry and is, hoping to become a PhD in biochemistry and then perhaps become a doctor or a teacher. And has had a wonderful experience with us, and we're very proud of her. And she's almost a poster child for what we're hoping to do around the world for people. Yen Ni chose not to come to the United States. She's also from Vietnam, but because her English was good and she had a good credential, she was able to apply to a university in Australia and is now studying business and wants to run her own business. So the path is not always to the U.S., but the path is up and out and into the Anglo world. And then we have a student also from Vietnam named Kevin who decided, I'm not going to go to university. I want to work. Maybe I'll do some studying, but I'm going to take a job now. And he got a job as the head of marketing for an English-speaking, bilingual school system in Vietnam. So he took the job route using his English skills and also his background now in international education, having been through our system. And so the list goes on and on of students that have had good success through our program.
Thanks so much for sharing examples of student success and the impact that it has had on their both university and career trajectory. You shared examples of their academic success as well as their career success. And that really speaks to what you were talking about just moments ago about how Hudson Global Scholars programming well prepares students for university life and beyond with those core content skills as well as the power skills, we used to call them soft skills, right? But really power skills, such as intercultural competence and others. So thanks for sharing those stories. Sure. I also want to highlight the new feature on your website, which I am currently obsessed with. that shares student stories. So that can be the new blog. So you can find out more about that. Again, just click that call to action button. And on the website, there are many more, as Bruce has indicated, many more student stories. And I'm sure your team is happy to share even more than that, Bruce, as well with folks.
Of course. I
So
mean, ultimately, I'm going to just interject the whole
yeah,
point
please.
to positively affect these kids' lives, and we, culturally, as we design our online learning system and our services, and even train our people, we always come back to that as the true north, which is make sure it's good for the kids and that they're getting for them the outcome that they want.
Yeah. It's why you do what you do.
Right.
So highlighting that and amplifying student voice and giving them a platform for them to share their stories. Really super well done. And I'm looking forward to reading even more stories on that blog. So thanks for sharing. So let's move now from students to partner schools. So can you provide some information about how you support the schools who partner with you to increase these learning opportunities for students or expand traditional education models?
Sure, and it's a very good question and important point. We don't try to displace the local school systems in the various countries where we provide our service. We partner with the physical school. We actually believe that physical schools provide important things to the students, and often the students by law have to be in a nationally run school in their country. Our program is a supplemental program that the school adopts, which allows the school to easily and fluidly offer students an international track within their school. Similar, but at far lower cost and impact than the IB program or a full UK curriculum implementation. And in so doing, the school now, to the students that want it, can offer a pathway to higher education in the US or the UK or Australia. They can improve their capacity to teach English at any grade level. They can greatly expand the elective subject matter that's available to kids, often with contemporary subjects that are of high interest to the students, and they can take credit for having placed students into better jobs, better institutions in their own country, and institutions in foreign countries in a way that they themselves would not be able to do. They wouldn't be able to marshal the counseling. They wouldn't be able to hire the bilingual teachers. They wouldn't be able to license the curriculum. We solve many, many problems, and we give it to them in a contemporary technology-based way that also lets them step up the technical capacity of their institution and teach those important skills as well, all at no cost to the school other than to accommodate the program. So we partner with these schools, and the schools, for the most part, I think are to the extent that they want to be, well transformed by the international technical program.
Thanks so much. And I think you may have answered Haley's question. I see a question in here about the chat, but since, usually save it to the end, but this is so timely with what you are discussing right now. Haley really enjoyed the student stories and wondered, have you heard specific feedback like you've heard from students? Have you heard specific feedback from some of these academic partners at the institutions about this collaborative effort that you just shared?
Sure. Well, so we had a choice of trying to offer our program directly to parents and compete with schools, or take the path we chose, which is to be the partner and collaborator with the schools. And we spent a lot of time meeting with school leaders. And I fortunately had the experience of myself running international schools and knew some of the challenges. And so the program is carefully designed for us to be a good business and education partner for school leaders around the world. And I think we do a good job of that. We have hundreds of school partners. For the most part, we retain them very well as partners, and the programs grow within their schools. And I think they would not partner with us if they didn't recognize the value of what we're doing, and they wouldn't stay in the partnership if they weren't getting the value. And they are also proud. I visit schools every year in Japan and host graduations with the kids, many of whom, like the young woman who went to Chicago, the school is enormously proud that it's now able to place students like that. And for them, they can advertise that in the local community, that they are a place where a student can come and receive this kind of education. And for their, for their own cohort and community, that is a very meaningful additive capability.
Like Elizabeth said about the technology while learning in English, win-win again for the schools, for the students, for everyone. It's winning
Right.
situation. So thanks so much for that question, Haley. And I encourage you all who are watching right now to pop your questions for Bruce in the chat, and we will get to those very shortly. But for now, I have another question for you, Bruce. And so it's about the measures. So what measures does Hudson Global Scholars take to support students' holistic development beyond their academic achievements? Such as leadership skills. You spoke a bit about cultural awareness or intercultural competence and social responsibility. Can you flesh those out a little bit for us?
Yeah, sure. Well, and the students are fundamentally in a, in a school system with other students from 23 countries and teachers from the United States. So they get a big shot of culture by dint of that, just in their daily work. But in addition, we maintain a active community effort within the school that includes things like the Culture Corner, which is a weekly club where students can present and discuss subjects from around the world, often from local cultures. So, it may be Carnival from the Latin America region or Chinese New Year, whatever it might be that is going on in the world, and the kids can exchange that among each other. We have a language club where students can help tutor each other in their localized language if they need help, and it's a peer-to-peer tutoring system where the kids can meet kids from around the world and get help from them. The kids love that. We run trivia contests. We run all kinds of kind of virtual fun events for the kids. And we have a student ambassador program in each country. We'll have a student ambassador who kind of leads the charge from the country and tries to maintain both local community within the country and also foment participation among the student population. And bear in mind, in some countries, in a country like Turkey, we have 400 students, so it's not small numbers, right? These are overall thousands and thousands of kids who we try to pull into involvement here. And they write articles, we do interviews, they make presentations, they have photo contests, whatever you can dream up that that might occur in a traditional school. We do that electronically, but we do it in a community of thousands of students all over the world.
The expression that keeps coming up, or the term that keeps coming up as you're speaking and you're talking about all of these initiatives and ways to engage students, is sense of belonging.
Yeah.
And I imagine with all of these ways that you have to engage students in peer-to-peer contact, that the sense of belonging must be incredibly high with these students. And certainly the results and the measures that you have for student outcomes do indicate that. So well done.
Well, thank you for that. And, of course, because it's an electronic learning system, fundamentally, we can measure everything. We can measure every keystroke if we want to, and we can operate, as a oversight monolith that way. But that's not what we're trying to do. We want to touch them in a human way and actually make the experience as experiential and as human as can possibly be done using distance techniques.
Yeah. So let's talk about that in terms now of accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
So can you tell me about how Hudson Global Scholars addresses challenges related to accessibility and affordability to ensure that more students can benefit from its programs?
Sure. So there are a couple of dimensions to that. One is literally the dimension of, where is the program available in the world and where do we have partner schools, and we continue to the extent our company can afford to do so, to open new countries each year. This year we opened operations in 7 new countries. We're at about 25 countries now. Just by reference, there are about 250 countries in the world. So we still have a long way to go before we've reached the entire planet, so to speak. So that's one dimension. The other is the depth of availability through school partners within the countries that we're already in, and we actively seek school partnerships right now and welcome those partnerships. On the Technically, we try to build the systems so that it is possible for them to run on a handheld device with good enough usability that a student who does not have a tablet or a computer or a physical school to go to that has those things can do our system and at least walk their way through the courses and participate in some of the community features. And that takes very clever design, because you have to, on the one hand, you want the electronic experience to be replete with features. On the other hand, you have to make sure that it can operate over a cellular phone network and in remote parts of the world. So our technical staff are always trying to optimize that trade-off so that a student in Kenya who's not in a city can log on to a 5G network, which exists in Kenya and most of the country right now, and with a handheld device study in our program. And a student, in a very fine school in Athens can walk into the computer lab with high bandwidth and a big screen and also have a good experience. So there's a technical task behind what we do that's not inconsequential to give that access that you're asking about. And lastly, there's the matter of cost, which is a big thing. So in online learning, fortunately, you don't have the cost of a building. So therefore, as a school, you have somewhat reduced costs. You're not carrying the building and its grounds, but you do have the teaching staff and you do have the curriculum. You have everything else. If you imagine the school without the building and all the people standing there, holding a computer, that's what an online learning school is. We still have to provide all the services, but we do it at great scale. So because we are an institution with thousands of students, our running costs are lower. And a missional part of our business or our company is to reduce that cost over time as we grow. We also offer several different levels of service. A student who's well motivated can obtain our instructional courses at a very low cost if they will self-pace their way through the courses. And in other circumstances, the schools ask us to teach live using a human teacher from the United States, teaching a cohort. And that level of service is obviously a more expensive service because we have the full teacher costs involved. So as you can tell from my dialogue here, this matter of cost management is an extremely important part of what we do. And we believe we do it well without robbing the system of its quality.
So another matter is time zones, and Sylvia brought this up as well. So you mentioned Chicago, you mentioned Japan and Greece, Kenya. So how do you manage to teach and reach students across these time zones, and how can you be accessible worldwide?
Sure. It's a great question. I would say, fortunately, and I like to give teachers credit where credit is due. We are able to find teaching faculty in the United States who are, I think, compelled enough by our mission to be willing to work at night and to teach their students. And much of their work is offline, right? Grading papers and communicating by email with the kids. They can do that during the normal workday, but they will get themselves up at, or teach at 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night in order to be teaching at 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning in Asia. They're very, very committed people, and they love having an international class that they can teach. And often it's a part-time role for them. So for them professionally, it's fun to have a class of students in Japan in the middle of the night, and they enjoy doing it. So I was concerned about this when we first began the online school, but it has actually not been a problem. The teachers seem to like it, and for that I thank them openly.
Thanks so much. Last question I have for you, Bruce, and it's that future forward looking question and looking ahead. Can you tell us about some of the key initiatives and goals that you hope to pursue in the coming years to further advance your mission of unlocking equity?
Sure. Well, part of unlocking equity for us is making sure that there is a lot of university opportunity for the students that finish our program, and that there's variety to those universities, and both in terms of the nature of the institution, its location, and also the cost of the university, so that it's accessible to students. So we have as a goal a dramatic increase in the number of universities that are offering admission to students that finish our program, and are actively at work on that. And also outside of the United States, more in Australia, more in Canada, more in the UK, etc. Um, we're also hoping to open vocational pathways, either professional instruction, certificate programs, other things that we can offer to students in country who choose not to necessarily travel for higher education. There's much that can be done once we have a relationship with them to offer them continuation study that may be practical or academic. We're operating now in 25 countries. And I mentioned there are many more countries. So another dimension over the years of expansion will be to try to bring the service to other places in the world as we are able to. Again, to repeat the mission of making sure that it's a really good value at a reasonable cost, and that over time the costs decline as the scale permits us to do so. So that we are the partner of choice for our schools and the education experience of choice for the students.
Well, Bruce, I want to thank you so much. And I look forward to hearing about how all of these initiatives come to fruition in the coming weeks and months and years for these programs and for these students. I also look forward to reading more student stories on your website, on that blog piece that you've launched. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Maureen. It's lovely to be here with you. And obviously you can see how proud we are of what we do.
Absolutely. And for folks who want to learn more about how Hudson Global Scholars partners with schools and organizations, please click the green bar in the bottom of your screen. Reach out to Bruce and his team at Hudson Global Scholars. And until then, this is Maureen Manning signing off from the Pi.